Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex. If you think today's tip or guest interview can help someone you know, please share this with them. And if you enjoy listening to our show, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button on the episodes. Finally, aside from our podcast, our day job here at Riderflex is to provide recruiting, staffing, and consulting services. You can visit riderflex.com to learn more about us and get the information on the services we provide. And now, a quick word from our sponsor and friends at Marketing 360.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Man, glad to have you on the Riderflex podcast. Should have had you on sooner.
Glad to be here. This is fun, man. I'm really excited for you guys. I gotta mute my phone real quick because I have a feeling it always happens right when you're in the middle of something fun, like, all right, so I'm all yours. No notifications, no ringtones, nothing.
Can you play that guitar, by the way? Can you, is
That
one
one right
just
there?
Yeah.
Oh, sure can.
Really? Okay. I didn't know. Were you in a band or anything in high school or what? What's the deal?
Yeah, I dabbled a little bit. I had a couple guys we tried to get something going with, but just the timing with everyone didn't work out. I really am like a solo artist. I write a lot of music and I play for myself, and played a couple paid gigs back in the day.
Is that right? You played some, that's pretty cool. You can pick up a lot of chicks playing on stage,
Yes, you can. Actually, that's how I met my ex-wife.
Man, ex-wife. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. But you're single now. You're single, living in the Denver metropolitan area. You're on dates all the time. What are you on those social sites? You go online and you swipe, or what? How do you do it these days? I don't know. I'm an old guy.
Man, I mean, I've been single for a couple of years now, and I've done the app thing. There's a couple ones out there that are okay, but honestly, I'm old school too. When I was with my ex-wife, we met the old-fashioned way. Met her at a bar.
Right. Yeah.
I met her actually the night that I was playing my first paid gig.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm the famous star. I'm the famous artist that was on stage. Now, did you sing too, or no?
Yeah. So I sing, I write a lot of my own music, and I grew up in the Hudson River Valley. So that's near, it's not too far. It's about 45 minutes from Bethel, Woodstock area. So I grew up around some influential artists, Levon Helms was in the area, and a lot of these guys were passing through, like Bob Dylan and Crosby, Stills and Nash and all those guys. So I grew up with a lot of that Americana influence, and so really heavy influence on songwriting. And just, to me, like, I love the idea of just playing the guitar, being able to just have an instrument, be able to make that music right there for you, and be able to, express what's going on. Right.
So you grew up now on the New York side or on the Jersey side? Where are you at there with Hudson River Valley?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm from the New York side.
Okay. All right. And tell me about your family a little bit. Let's talk about you when you were growing up, right? Cipriani, Cipriani, that's Italian, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah. So nothing too crazy. I mean, my father's a carpenter, my mother's a nurse.
Okay.
Grew up in a family where I just work really, really hard and provide for your family and be a good person, built on principles of honor and integrity and respect. Respect's a big thing where I came from. And a lot of blue collar type jobs, man. A lot of carpenters, plumbers, and mechanics. And I was a carpenter for apprentice to my father for many years. Okay. And yeah, what can I say? I mean, the Hudson Valley is
can you build stuff? Can you, like, if you need to put up some sheetrock and, like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know, put in a new door and stuff. Can you do that type of stuff?
Yeah, Steve, if you need some help, man, I can come by, help you out. Free of charge.
I'm such a non-handy guy. I mean, I can barely change out a light switch, right? I mean,
You're modest.
I can barely do that stuff. Okay, so when you were any siblings, by the way?
Yeah, I have one younger brother.
Okay, all right. Is
Just
he in
one
the
younger.
trade? Is he a construction guy, or what's he do?
Yeah, he is a courier for the UPS.
Okay, all right. Is your mom and dad still alive? Still in New York?
Healthy and happy. I'm actually getting ready to go see him tomorrow.
Oh, really? Flying
Yeah.
out? Okay, a little
Yeah.
little little trip to New York for some family time.
Yep. Gonna take the little kiddo out to see her cousins and her Mima and Peepak.
Okay, you have one girl,
Mm-hmm. Little Eleanor, my pride
Eleanor.
and
Okay,
joy.
how old is she?
Ella turns 4 this September.
Ooh, 4. Okay, that's a good
Yeah.
age, right?
Yeah.
They can kind of get stuff off the cabinet. They're not in diapers. They can kind of do a few things on their own, somewhat starting to get self-sufficient,
Yeah.
right?
She's at a dangerous age.
Yeah, dangerous. Yeah, that's a good word.
On suicide watch.
So when you were growing up, though,
Yeah.
your dad was in construction. Like you said, a lot of blue collar
Hmm.
type stuff from your family. By the way, was your dad second generation, third generation? How did you track anything going back to Italy or anything like that? Do you know any history? Just curious.
Yeah. My mom actually did a lot of the research. She did the ancestry.com thing.
Mm,
And my father is third generation
okay.
Italian. Yep, they
Okay.
they came off the boat squeezing olives, came over here. Yeah, and they just migrated out of the city, and there's a lot more job opportunity if you were willing to work real hard upstate. I mean, it was really rural back in the day where I grew up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really country. So, you had to be good with your hands, and because of the amount of people coming out of New York City, you also had to be sharp. It's a very competitive edge coming out of
Mhm.
New York. It's a unique dynamic, being from the country in New York State, only an hour and a half, 2 hours from New York City. It creates this dynamic where you have to be good at both worlds.
Mm.
You gotta
Mhm.
be, you gotta have a little street smarts, but you also gotta have some grit.
Really great point, Charlie. And that's probably what shaped your people skills and your EQ a lot, right? When you were growing up, that is a really good point. If you are an hour and a half, 2 hours from a major city, yeah, out in the country, so to speak, it is a different mentality, different personalities, different styles, different speed.
Hmm.
And then, you got to be able to, change your game a little bit when you go an hour and a half the other direction.
Yeah, yeah.
You can probably do that, especially living in Colorado now, which is a much slower speed than New York.
Hmm.
Especially if you go into the city, right? You kind of got
Yeah,
to get your game face on. I can just see you. I can see you in Grand Central Station, and you're just like, okay,
yeah,
let me get ready. I'm about to step out on the street.
yeah. It's funny. Like my family, we really didn't go to the city that often.
Oh, you didn't?
But I mean,
Okay.
we'd go. It wasn't like something we would frequent all the time. We'd go down and visit museums and like go and do a couple things here and there. But it wasn't
Yeah.
something we did like on a weekly or monthly basis. It wasn't until I got to about my early 20s. I got a job down in New York City for the
Okay.
first time, and I would commute. And that's a very common where I grew up. People would commute an hour and a half, 2 hours each way every day.
Oof. Oof.
And I did that for a couple of weeks, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take the train. And so the Metro North runs right through Grand Central Station, and so I would take the Metro North either out of the Poughkeepsie train station or the Pauling train station, and hop on that, and I hop on the 4 line out of Grand Central down to Union Square, and then walk the rest of the way to Chelsea, and had a job down there for a little while, and I loved it. I loved
Did
it.
you?
Yeah, I just embraced it, man. I loved, grabbing the New York Times at a Grand Central and a cup of coffee and, doing my commute and the hustle and bustle. But I wasn't lighting the world on fire financially or anything. So it's a struggle, it's very expensive. And so
Oh,
unless
yes.
it's a lot of people also think that New York City is a very cold place. And uh, maybe in parts of Manhattan, but the reality is that you really need to rely on other people if you are not making a lot of money. And so it's very intermingled. Everyone is heavy on relationships down there. And
Hmm.
so, I made some really good relationships. I picked things up quick, learned how to survive. And I was sleeping on a friend's couch half the week, so I didn't have to commute back and forth every single day.
That's
You know,
great. See, there you go.
just do what you got to do.
You're adaptive and you hustle. That's what I love about you. Okay. So you're in New York now. Is this before college or after? Because you went to CU, right? At some point. Walk us through
Yeah.
a little bit of how did you get to CU?
Yeah. So I guess I don't know, eclectic's the right word, but I have a unorthodox process after high school. I didn't go to college right after high school.
Okay.
I was taking college courses in high school, but I didn't know really what I wanted to do. I was thinking, I think I might want to be a teacher. I've always loved helping people. I loved, making people feel good and supporting people and what they need help with.
Okay.
But I didn't really know specifically what job I wanted. I was like, I don't think teacher's the right thing for me. And so I was a carpenter for about 4 years after high school. I worked for my
Okay.
father,
Okay.
and then I decided, I want to do something else. It's backbreaking work.
Oh, no
Anyone
doubt.
who does it, God bless you. Who does it full
No doubt.
time every day for a living. You know, it's one of the hardest jobs out there, building houses in the elements every day. But I was still drawn towards helping people in different ways. And I actually got a degree in natural wellness and preventative health care from an institute in Albany, New York.
I
And
see.
so, yeah, I went around and I got a specialization in a type of massage therapy called neuromuscular therapy. So
Oh,
I would
okay.
go around and help people with physical issues. And I did that for about 3, 4 years. And then kept, I'm a sponge for knowledge. Like I love learning, I love experiencing. I don't like sitting still. And I kind of saw into the future and I was like, I'm going to plateau in this. And unless I'm going to build some big, company that's teaching advanced massage to early massage therapists or working and building a holistic clinic that has all of these other things going on in it, um, that really wasn't what I was driving to do. I loved individually helping people, but there was something missing. And so I that's when I decided to go and get a degree in environmental work. And I ended up at CU, and that was 23. So I went back to college, the local community college, and banged out some A's there in 2 semesters and transferred to CU, packed my car and drove across the country, and I guess the rest is history from there.
Why did you pick CU? Why Colorado? Did you know anybody here?
I mean, it's how do I explain this? I'm big on energy, right? Like I can feel it, and it's also a part of the healing practice I was doing. When you're working with people, you can kind of feel what's going on with them, and then I would identify that and figure out ways of how I can help them based on their physical issues. And a lot of times, energy is a part of that, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so I went to see you to visit for fun around my birthday. My birthday's the end of May, and I just love the energy of Boulder. It was 2009, 2008.
Okay.
New York, the energy was just really low. We were coming out of,
Mm-hmm.
the big crash, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? And also my healing practice, people were pivoting how they were spending their money.
Okay.
So I had clients that were offering for me to come and stay with them and like stay in their guest house, and they were going to give me basically a retainer, a monthly fee to just work on them, and I would go and do that for other people in the community. And people wanted to pay me cash, and then all of a sudden it was just credit cards. Everyone was just putting everything on debt.
Mm-hmm.
And New York was really stressed. It's a highly competitive area, and
Yep.
so
Yep.
they're really sensitive to these dips in the market. I came out to Boulder, Colorado, and there was none of that. It was rainbows and Lucky Charms, man. And also, it's just students. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to school and learn something really unique and something cool. And something more holistic about the environment and all of that. And I was like, I'll figure it out. And met some beautiful people, and the energy was magnetic, and everyone was there for the same reason. Everyone that I met, everyone was coming to that area from California and from Florida and from Texas and Chicago and New York, all for that same purpose. And so I felt like I needed to be there. Like that was my place in time.
Did you know what you wanted to do for a living after that? Or in the moment, you're like, I don't know exactly, but I'm going to get this degree. I'm having a good time in Boulder. I'll figure it out later. Or was there a master plan?
There was a general plan. The general plan was, I decided to go back to school when I was still, I was doing my neuromuscular therapy practice, and I was still dabbling because that was getting really slow at 2008, 2009. So I decided to do a little carpentry on the side. And I remember the day that I decided that I wanted to go back to school in environmental work. And I decided that I wanted to work in renewable energy. I didn't know specifically what, but I wanted to be in renewable energy. And I was on a roof one day. It was 102 degrees outside, humid as hell. New York summers can be rough. It's like the summer of Sam. It was just ridiculously hot and brutal out there. And it was so hot that we had to spray the roof down with water so that the shingles wouldn't melt from our boots and ruin the shingles on this roof.
Oof.
And yeah, it was rough. People were dropping like flies that day. And I'm just sitting there, and the generator's running, the air compressor's running, and we're throwing all this stuff into this dumpster. And I'm like, this was a brand new roof 7 years ago, right? And all this material was made, and like it just happened in that moment. It came into my mind, and I saw everything clear as day in this one moment, that how unsustainable we are as a species. We made all of this building material, put all the energy and labor to get it up there, and here I am getting rid of it only 7 years later. It didn't make any sense. And then I looked across the street. Someone was installing solar panels on them.
That's how there's the solar doorway right there. Cause I know you had some solar in the background. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Now you had not been in sales, but you were selling your massage healing practice. So that's sales. I mean, you were I mean, you were selling. So you were used to talking. All right. So you went and talked to what did you call somebody and say, hey man, I want to be in solar.
Yeah. What did I do? I knew that CU had one of the largest environmental programs in the United States. I knew they had some heavy hitters there. CU, a lot of people don't know this, but CU works with a lot of third-party companies that also take in funding, and government agencies that have funding to support the proliferation of the industry. Yeah. And so there's Instar and there's NREL, and NREL is making the technology, testing technologies most of the time, like they're like an incubator. Instar is really doing a lot of research on climate related stuff. And some of the top professors in the United States related to climatology are out of CU. So Professor James White, who was a major influencer on the proving of climate change through the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. And he proved it over many years of traveling to the pole, the North Pole, and gathering ice borings, from the, that area up there. And what we would do is we would test these ice borings for concentrations of CO2. And so that research, a lot of it was right here in Colorado, in Boulder, in his classes, and in Instar, like right down the street from where I grew up, or not grew up, but sorry, went to school. And so I knew I wanted to learn that. I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to know what was going on.
Okay.
And then from there, I would figure out, because the environmental program is so broad. So I was like, do I want to work on the hard science side? Do I want to work on the soft science side? Do I want to get into a business? I mean, I knew I wanted to work in renewable energy, but I really wanted to understand everything there was, because I love to validate, right? And everyone says, oh, renewable energy, it's cleaner and greener, and it's better for the planet. Like, we need to do it. I wanted to know why. And so every class that I took, I chose classes that were focused on understanding from the conception of what the problems are to what are the solutions and how to get there. And I quickly realized in my first semester that I'm not cut out for hard science. I just, I'm, I mean, I love it, but I don't have an attention to detail for, the
Okay.
scientific method and the number side of things. I get tired, I get bored. I love working with people. And then, so I went to the soft science side, policy and society, and really understood how our governments work
I
and
see.
how that relates to the markets and the businesses and how this industry is working across the United States. And that's what I really realized what the true problem was. That the problem was not that we're limited in technology. The problem that we're facing, especially in this country, are the people that don't want us to have these technologies.
And
The
why is
industries.
that? Yeah, why is it? Because it hurts them, they lose money,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're dealing with the same thing in, we're kind of like foreshadowing for later in this call, but like it's same thing with the hemp industry. Yeah, so it's a disruptive industry, right? You have
Mhm.
generations of wealth that are making a lot of money. It's
Yep.
very simple, making a lot of money on their infrastructure that they've built out, and they
Yes.
don't want to lose it.
No
And
doubt.
and they don't.
No
And
doubt.
why change it, right? And so they're like, yeah, they're like, these problems over here, environmental degradation and climate change. It's like, I'm making billions of dollars.
Yeah.
So,
I tell
yeah.
I tell people all the time, and I'm not an expert on this, so maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but I'm pretty sure, even when you talk about the oil industry, I mean, it goes all the way back, even in World War II. I'm pretty sure we went through certain geographic areas on our way up to destroy Hitler to make sure we captured certain
Oh yeah.
things for the oil industry, etc. I mean, we've gone to wars and people die. Like the oil industry is so powerful. They basically have told our military what to do over the last 20 or 30, 40 years. And
Yeah.
so people don't understand, like, listen, man, you're talking about some of the most powerful organizations and people on planet Earth, and they are going to protect certain things. It's going to be very difficult to maneuver through that. So anyway.
You're 100% on point, and you think I'll end it with this. We quickly realized in World War II that the only way to really stop this growing enemy was to cut them off of energy. And then from there, that thought spiraled out and it says the entire world
Yes,
is relying on energy. The
that's
amount
right.
of the billions of barrels of oil that we consume in a day on
It's
this planet,
unbelievable.
let alone the United States, you control that, you control an entire society.
Yes,
And
no
so
doubt, no doubt about it.
our government said we need to protect the interests of our people and of our sovereign state. And so we are risking our freedoms by not controlling our energy supply. And
Yeah.
so when we went into the Middle East and Africa,
Yeah,
because we knew the Nazis were going down there and
that's right. Yep,
and trying to secure it, that we went in there and built relationships and helped
that's
secure
right.
it on our end. And then it's just a spiral from there. There's a great book out there called Blood and Oil that talks about the entire history of how we got to where we are in this country. But I mean,
So yeah, and we could do a whole podcast on that, by the
I
way,
know.
because it's a
Yeah.
fascinating topic. Yeah, we could do a whole podcast, but let's go here.
Yeah.
Somehow at some point, so you had some passions there and you did well in renewable energy and in solar, but something triggered you. There was a doorway into cannabis and hemp somehow. Walk us through that transition, if you don't mind.
Perfect segue, man.
Yeah.
It's related to this conversation that we just had.
Okay.
I became very, very frustrated. I was starry-eyed and I was like, I'm going to change the world. And the reality is that nonprofits don't change the world. Companies
Right.
change the world.
Right.
Money
Right.
and influence and power changes the world.
That's right.
You look at Elon Musk, right? And the wealth that he's amassed with his company and the innovations through his technology has forced the transportation industry of the United States to transition from fossil fuel combustion engine vehicles to electric motors. And he did it through the markets, through business.
Yeah.
I was in a nonprofit. I segued right out of school as an intern coordinator and became a associate development director of a nonprofit. And I was in charge of fundraising and basically selling what we were educating the communities on, which was, hey, here's the truth about renewable energy. And we were watchdogs. I was a policy analyst for a little while.
I
So
see.
we were like, here's what's going on in our governments. Here's what the utility companies are doing. Here's what the oil and gas and coal companies are doing. And, I was barely paying my bills doing that. So I did that for a few years. I really enjoyed it. But we would hit all these milestones. And then, these companies would rush in and just throw all this money and just start knocking things back. So it's this constant effort back and forth. And nonprofits use manpower and community power, which is a tremendous amount of energy. And, the other forces use a lot of money, and which with money creates organization and strategy that is just really hard to compete with. And so I just got tired and I got my big break at Tesla Solar City. I said, I'm going to move for the for-profit sector.
Okay.
And that for-profit sector was great. That's when I really started to make some good money and started to learn about the for-profit side of renewable energy. How are we monetizing this technology of solar energy? How is it actually working in the supply chain? And then again, same thing that happened with my healing practice. I felt like I was hitting this glass ceiling.
Okay.
I knew that I was never going to have a seat at the table.
Right. And you still had this entrepreneurial bug because of the early life with your dad and him kind of running his thing and you kind of doing some of your own independent construction and your own healing massage practice. So you were an early entrepreneur in some of those things and that bug was in there. So let me guess, when you're selling solar, you're like, I don't have a seat at the table and I got this entrepreneurial bug kind of stirring around in my gut. Okay. Yep. I got it. All right. Go ahead.
So it was a perfect segue into the hemp cannabis industry because at the time, Solar City was the residential solar program. They were acquired by Tesla Motors. Okay. Now Tesla has a solar program that's in the same company, but Solar City was having some issues. There were some infrastructural issues that I noticed in the company, and I wanted to help, but I was just a low-ranking guy in the sales department. But my background and my education was really valuable. And so I was giving information to the vice president who I was building a relationship with here in Colorado. Okay. And they groomed me for management and they flew me out to meet the CEO and all the directors with the VP. And, they gave me this management role opportunity and it was lackluster. It really wasn't going to do anything for my career. They are pretty much setting me up for failure. And I knew right there that the leaders of the company from the sales department didn't even know what they were doing. Like when I walked into the room and I knew more conceptually about what needed to be done. And they either, it wasn't like they opened up and just told me everything was going on. They either didn't care or didn't know, right? And, everyone has their own personal agendas. And so I was like, I turned down the management role. Wow. And left the company about 3-4 weeks later.
Wow. And on your flight back now, on your flight back, were you thinking to yourself, okay, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. No, I won't name names, but I had drinks at the airport with the VP at the time.
Okay.
And we were having more than just a few drinks. And he's like, Charlie, I was a little disappointed. I thought that you were going to take this job. And I was like, listen, man, I'm not getting on my knees for this crappy role. I mean, they had a hiring freeze. They had a firing freeze. Their top sales guy in the territory they wanted me to take over was now their lowest performer. The team was losing trust in management because they had been making bad decisions.
Yeah, you see fires everywhere. You're like, I see smoke, I see fires. It doesn't feel right. Yep. Okay.
And I could have done some things to help and fixed specifically to do what I needed to do for that team. But they wanted me to go in with hands tied behind my back. And I have a problem, especially, and I don't think a lot of top management people understand this in sales, that you can't lie to your salespeople. You can't just piss on them and tell them it's raining, because these people have families. So I call it the Stonewall Jackson approach, right? I lead in the front when we go to battle. I lead by example, right? I'll take a bullet for my team. And if someone's like, I can't sell, I'm going out in the field with you, and then let's find out. And if I outsell you, you're going to get your ass back out there and you're going to do what I tell you to do, right? Right? Like, I'm very tough, but I don't sit in the back with the whip, right? I'm up front leading, right? So
great.
I use the Stonewall approach, and I was like, I can't look a man in the eyes that has 3 children and is trying to make ends meet, who went from making $10,000 a month and is now making $4,000 a month, and tell him everything's going to be okay. And all you got to do is work harder. And the reality was that was not going to happen unless we made some changes within, the back end, right? We had some issues with point of sale and this and that. But anyway, I left, and then I just started to dabble. I was testing out these different markets of where I can really sink my teeth into something. And I was looking at energy efficient windows. I was looking at, all kinds of different things. I was thinking about starting a consulting firm to work with companies. And I decided, probably shouldn't be a consultant unless I put a couple of successes under my belt first. Okay. Probably not a good idea. And then I stumbled into the cannabis industry in an ancillary business, working with sustainable fertilizer and cultivation.
So that's the tie, right? So the whole sustainability piece and your background and some of those areas, then you found the fertilizer company, Key to Life. I got you. Okay. That's
where we met.
So it wasn't like you were targeting cannabis and hemp. It just happened. Okay.
Yeah. I met the owner, Tate Dooley, and really nice guy, brilliant with growing cannabis. I mean, the guy really knows what he's doing. I will give him that. But he lacked some experience and skills and knowledge to be at the time. I haven't talked to the guy in years, and I don't want to bash anyone, but he just, he was lacking some things that the leader of the company needed, especially on some business acumen. Okay. And he was a cannabis guy, an early stage cannabis guy. So this is very common. Really passionate, really smart with the plant, but just was missing on a few things. And I said, I can be that puzzle piece for you.
Gotcha.
I can be the liaison between business and cannabis. And so I came in, and he downloaded as much as he could into me on everything there was to know about this plant, right? And then what I did was I took that and then built something around it of how we can improve the monetization of his model. So we were selling sustainable carbon-based fertilizers that were actually good for the environment, that weren't creating a lot of these issues that petroleum-based, your traditional fertilizers that you're getting from, your Monsanto, your Miracle Grow stuff that's horrible for the environment and for your plant's immune system. And so, oh man, this is a win-win for me, right? So I'm coming in to be a co-leader role and help build the sales team and help restructure things and getting into this new exciting market. And I've always been down with cannabis. I've never had a problem with anyone who consumes cannabis. I consume cannabis, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And
how are your parents, by the way? How are your parents on the cannabis piece, real quick? I don't want to interrupt your flow, but just curious, when
you're good.
When you called mom and dad and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be in the cannabis industry, how was that?
uh, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I didn't grow up in a really conservative household.
Oh, okay.
My yeah, my mom is a straight edge. I mean, she doesn't consume, but not because she's thinks it's like devil's lettuce. She's very sensitive, and she just doesn't like putting anything in her body that's
Okay.
not
Okay.
within the structure that she was raised on. So,
Right.
yeah, they're like live and let live, right? So,
Okay. Okay. So they didn't
yeah,
have any major problems with it, but
yeah,
when you were a teenager, you weren't sitting around in the living room getting high with your parents either.
no, no, I was sneaking around. As
Okay.
I tell these young cats today, I'm like, I used to get in the car with strangers and buy drugs. Joe Rogan has this thing about it. I think it's Joe Rogan that talks about this. He's like, these kids are never going to understand what it was like for us to get weed back
No.
in the day.
It
Right?
isn't that so true. You are so
It's
right. I
so
mean,
funny.
especially even for me, because I'm even older.
Right.
Um, my
So,
favorite line is not to go down a rabbit hole here on getting weed when you're young, but when I was a kid, there were two kinds of weed:
yeah.
the weed you had or you didn't have any. there
Yeah.
was no there was no like, oh, sativa, indica, this flavor, that flavor. Like there was
Yeah.
none of that. There was none of that. You
Yeah.
had weed or you didn't have weed. That was it.
You had weed or you didn't have weed, man. Um, that's so true. It is so true. People are scraping
Uh,
resins out of their bowls.
oh yeah, yeah,
It was,
totally.
I mean, you're from Oklahoma, right?
Yes, yes, super
Yeah.
conservative, super
Super
conservative.
conservative.
But we
Yeah.
never, but I never like I don't remember being scared. Like, when I was in college or whatever, and we'd just like you said, we'd just get in a car with some guys and drive around the
Right.
block, get stoned.
Right.
Uh, I never remember thinking, "Oh, we're gonna get arrested," or "Oh," like I just don't remember. I don't remember having any of those fears. I just was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, this is what we do." Like Anyway,
That's awesome. That was not
anyway.
what it was like where I grew up. The cops
so
were looking for a tag, a collar, so that they can work up the chain. I think that's what it was. I mean, they
uh,
hunted us. We would,
ooh,
so there was like this paranoia and this fear that even to this day, like
right,
being in sunny Colorado with the most regulated, legalized market, like
right,
sometimes I still smoke and I'm like, wait a
yeah.
second.
I totally, yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember the first time I was downtown Denver. We were with a client, and we walk out of the restaurant. He just pulls out a pipe right on the sidewalk, and he's like, "Okay, let's have a few hits." And I was the
Yeah.
same way. I was like, "Well,
Is
look
this
around? Let
kosher?
me like check the street. Is there anybody?"
Yeah. I don't have my running shoes on.
I totally agree. Okay, so you enter the market. You're working for Key to Life. You're having fun. You're kind of fulfilling. You're not an owner, but you're very close to the owner. So you're involved in the entrepreneurial piece of it a little bit. Plus you're in sales. Plus you're sustainability. Plus you're in cannabis. All this sounds like this is a good fit. You're having a good time, right? And now,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. All right.
Well, the company, when I first came in, didn't know because it wasn't like they just were like, hey, here's the books, analyze the company. And I also wasn't at that, I didn't feel comfortable enough at that level of my career yet to just be like, yeah, let me just like completely tear this company apart and from the
Right.
inside out. And they were having
Right.
some struggles.
Okay.
Um, and so it wasn't like they had a huge capital reserve and were able to hire all the people that needed to be hired. So it was bootstrap.
Okay. All right.
And that's when I really got to cut my teeth.
Mm,
I was bootstrapping. I was building a sales
mhm,
team at
mhm.
100% commission,
Mm.
working on a very small budget. So you had to be really precise, not precise. That's not the right word. Had to be really
Laser focused.
laser focused, conscientious on how we were spending that money. How can I squeeze blood out of a turnip? And what we decided to do was, and ever since this time, and I took some of it from Tesla Solar City, even to this day, is a consultative sales approach, especially in business to business. Let's go in there and use what we have. Same as the nonprofits. We don't have money, great, but we have blood and sweat. So let's get into these businesses that are growing and extracting, and let's educate them on how we can improve their bottom line
Mm,
and improve the quality of their product.
mhm,
Let's make them more
mhm.
money. Let's do something better for the environment. So it was similar to the Solar City pitch, right? And
That's
so
right.
I just took it, reformed it, and now we're in cannabis. And we went out to hundreds, Steve, hundreds of grows. And that's what really allowed me to get to where I was today. And that's why I'm appreciative for the opportunity that Tate gave me. And despite that things didn't work out and
Yeah.
we fought towards the end,
Got you
I
in.
got to
Yep.
see
Yep.
the operation of almost any type of grow you can think of, from
Mhm.
Colorado to California up to
Mhm.
Oregon and Washington.
Great.
And I really got to put my hand on the pulse on
By
the
the way,
business side and operations.
just for the listeners, to cold call or cold walk up to a grow or a facility as a salesperson, find a way to get in the door and talk to one of those old school cannabis owners and try to sell them something, that takes balls. And that is not an easy little path right there, because it's
No.
hard to even find the facilities. It's hard to get somebody to get you in the door. It's super hard to get the meeting. And then when you do get the meeting, it's some guy, and back in the day when you were doing this, it's probably some guy's been growing weed for 30 years. He hates salespeople. And there you are, the New York
Mm.
kid, and he's like, who the hell's this guy
Yeah.
trying to sell me some soil?
Yeah.
That was
Well, I
not
learned really
easy.
quick, man. I had to
Yeah.
adapt.
Yeah.
I'd walk in like this, and I am wearing pants right now, by the way. So I'd walk up in my slacks and my collar, because I wanna respect you, right? And
Mhm.
so this is for, for me, but also I want to respect you and show you that I'm here to help you and do business, and everything that you see is a part of that, right? Like, I took the time and energy to get there. That's not how it is in cannabis. It's the complete opposite, actually. So I had to put on the t-shirt and
Yep.
the
Yep.
baseball cap and walk in there, and a lot of them don't even really trust you unless you burn with them. And so it's
That's right.
like,
It's true.
it's
It's
hard for
true.
me, man. I have a hard time getting high while I'm trying to work. It's or
You're
work while I'm
trying
getting
to sell.
high.
You're trying to close a deal right here. And now
Yeah,
we're stoned and we're talking about when we went to
yeah,
Vegas that time and blah, blah, blah. And you're like,
exactly.
okay.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. I let Tate do that, because Tate's like, some people I've noticed about this industry, and I really want to talk about this eventually. I don't know how much
Well,
time we have,
we
but
got to get there. Yeah, we got to get there. Go ahead.
you're gonna
Yep.
love this. It was something that I noticed about the industry, and it actually segues into where I'm at today.
Good.
The industry feeds itself, and what I mean by that is, like, everything that people grow, everything people make, and all these consumable products within the cannabis industry today and back then was for the people that were making it, for us, by us kind of idea. And who are these people? These are people that their bodies do really well with these high concentrations of Delta 9 THC.
Mm.
I do not.
I don't
And
either.
I've noticed a lot of people don't. And so when in most dispensaries, especially in Colorado, they're really high in THC,
You're right.
really,
It's
really high, and almost no other cannabinoids.
It's true.
And studies have shown that it's not that great for you psychologically to be consuming really high levels of Delta 9 every day. And so these growers,
and 40 and 50-year-old professionals that want to partake a little bit because they're recreational casual users and want to have like a little fun, they just don't have the what's the word their bodies just can't handle that strong of a hit, right? And then
yeah,
they're on the ground, so to speak. They're in
right,
the bed on the couch, like, damn, I can't even function right now.
right.
It's true.
And so, yeah, at Keto Life, the theme of this throughout my whole career was, with the exception of Tesla Solar City, was that lack of capital is one of the major struggles that we've dealt with. And then, and then we met at Keto Life, and one of the struggles I had was finding the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta have capital sometimes, most of the time, to bring in the right people.
That's right. And so that segues right into what you're doing now. So let's talk about it. Yeah. So you saw the need for so you liked the industry, you're having a good time. You saw the need for capital in so many ways. Let's move into it now here with Quality Bancorp. Quality Bancorp. By the way, for the listeners, it's Quality Bancorp. So, and just like it's spelled, just like it sounds, qualitybancorp.com. You can also, just want to make sure I get this in there, you can also pull up Charlie Cipriani, and it's Charles Cipriani on LinkedIn, and you can connect with him there. Tell us about your business right now. Give us the elevator pitch and so forth. Go for it.
Yeah, all started at Key to Life. I realized it when I started a couple early startups as well in the space, is that it's really hard to get access to capital. And it's because of this mentality that we're evolving out of from the history of the cannabis industry. The Wall Street guys and girls out there, the private equity, the vulture capitalists, there's this dissonance, right? The cannabis people don't trust
That's
the
right.
capitalist people,
You're
the
right.
capitalists.
Yep.
And the capitalists are just like, how do I get these guys to just figure out how to let me do business with them? And I think they would earn more respect if they, and it's not everybody, but a lot of them, like if they just showed up to a meeting on time, or
Right.
weren't getting high before the meeting, or started work before 10 a.m. And again, that's not everybody, right? But it's a lot of people. And so
It
a
is.
lot of people have these great ideas, these startups, and I realized I wanted to help these people. I wanted to give them a short-term lending solution, because sometimes like you don't need a lot. And so
Right.
what
True.
Quality Bancorp does is we do short-term lending,
I see.
where 30-day turns. And we don't even evaluate financials, because most people wouldn't qualify anyway. They've only been in business a short amount of time. They're not making a lot of money. So what we do is we secure the hemp assets. We work specifically in hemp right now. We're not working on the cannabis side, the Delta 9 THC side.
All right.
And it's quite simple. If someone needs money and they don't have the ability to qualify for other types of lending, we literally just qualify that hemp, right? So whether it's certain types of flower or the CBD oil, right? Whether it's a crude or distillate or isolate, if that oil is qualified for our portfolio, then we'll cut you a check in 2 days. So it's very
So the collateral is the inventory, basically.
correct.
The collaterals are so in your mind, you're like, hey, worst case scenario, these guys don't pay us back. We own the inventory.
Correct.
You do the math. You're like, okay, even if we had to like wholesale the inventory, or even if we had to budget sell the inventory at a discount, we're still going to get our money back or whatever. Okay, gotcha.
Yep, very simple.
Okay, all right.
Asset-backed lending. Collateralizing the inventory.
Yep.
And the industry is going through some amazing transitions right now. So I really want to touch on this real quick. It's only take a minute.
Well,
so talking about, I'm screaming this from the rooftops right now. I'm telling investors that are looking to also get in as well. Like, this is something that we really need to identify. And I want to tell everyone this. It's so important to know this. Because these dispensaries across the country are selling to other people that are consumers of high level of Delta 9, we're leaving an entire demographic of consumers across the United States on the table. And I feel that the cannabis industry is scrounging for the scraps of this one plate, and there's an entire feast over here.
You're right.
And what we're really talking about here are a more balanced product that's using the entourage effect, that has more cannabinoids outside of Delta 9 THC, and then balancing that out to create a more mild high that's more functional. Because we dumped a bunch of money into marketing about this, so that we can really target on where we really want to lend our money and also invest into. But also, we create consumable products from the inventory that we have from defaulted loans.
Oh, you do? I see. Oh,
Yeah.
so are you trying to be a product company or a wholesale company, or that's just kind of happening naturally?
It's happening naturally, and now we are becoming that. We have a subsidiary called Zodiac Essentials. And it's a self-care company that's coming out with a lot of different products. And we put a lot of money into market research, and our market research showed that roughly 5% of the United States can afford to consume CBD products today, right? Because of the price point, it's so high. And then on the cannabis side and the marijuana side, a lot of people either don't like the feeling that the products that these dispensaries are selling today, right? They don't like the feeling of it. It's too intense. Or they just feel alienated by the culture of cannabis. Right.
It's so fascinating you bring this up, because there's a new dispensary down from my house. My wife and I go in. Keep in mind, we're 50s, right? And so right away they're trying to sell, oh, this right here, the potency, the blah blah blah, this is like super strong, la la la, concentrate. I'm like, listen, bro, man, I don't need that, man. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a very recreational, special
Yeah.
occasion. Maybe it's a weekend. I want to relax a little bit on my back porch. I don't need to like be on the ground. Like, why are you always
Right.
trying to push the heavy stuff on me? And that's happened the last several times I've been in. So I have personally witnessed exactly what you're saying.
Hmm.
No, can I just get like, I want to be functional. I want to be relaxed and I want to
Yes.
laugh at stuff, but I want to be functional. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, I hear exactly what you're saying. By the way, real quick, zodiac-essentials.com. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hyphen
Zodiac-essentials.com.
essentials. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
We just launched it in February, and it came to me. Again, it's this energy thing, right? I was meditating. I do a meditative practice every morning, and it came to me in a wave. It was like a crash, like boom. Like everything that I've been working on for the past 5 years in this industry, all culminated to this one position, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is that if we really want the cannabis industry to be taken seriously by the majority of Americans, we have to have a product that is not so that doesn't have such an intense psychoactive effect.
You're right.
And here's the business, right? People will consume it more
That's
and more
correct.
frequently, which
It's
means
totally
more
true.
money. So
I-
people will consume
Totally
this in the
true.
morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, in the night.
I really can't. I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but you're
No,
exactly
please.
right. I bought one of those couple of those concentrated pins. And for a guy that does not smoke that often, like one of those pins that I've had it for like 2 months,
Right.
like, cause I barely got, cause first of all, if I take one little tiny hit, I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I gotta go to bed right now. Right. And you're right. And it's lasted forever cause it's just so strong. It's like if I
Right.
had a more casual thing where I could, in the afternoons, I'm having a glass of wine, my wife gets off work, I'm trying to relax. I take a couple of hits, I'm just relaxed, but I'm not like dead on the
Yeah.
couch. You're totally right. I
Or like
absolutely
intense, you're like,
can
man,
concur.
like I feel uncomfortable. I'm so high right
Yes,
now. I only
so
took a
true.
couple hits.
So
Yeah,
true.
so I have a product for you.
Oh, all right. All
We
right.
created a formulation. So we got this really great flower that came off of a loan.
Okay.
And it smokes really well. It's got a good taste. It's nice and smooth
Okay.
for a CBD flowers, and it's compliant, right? This is a CBD flower, and
Okay.
we infused it with a formulation of other cannabinoids.
But no THC in this, or there is?
Compliant levels of Delta 9 THC, and then we offered two versions, one with just the different cannabinoids and then other botanical terpenes that also have medicinal value to it,
Okay.
and one that we add botanically derived Delta 8 THC, which is a new craze right now. And it's because Delta 8 isn't as long lasting and it's more mild. And it's
Okay.
created this high that in fact, I'm consuming more.
Yep.
I made it
Yep.
for me, really. And then
Yeah.
I noticed, man, this is something special. And so
Gotcha.
we sell them in these 3.5 gram containers. We're in some retail stores across the United States, and people are buying our stuff multiple times a week.
Are you wholesale, and so are you selling just wholesale, or can you buy direct from your
You
website?
can buy
Or-
right off our website
Okay.
as well, but we respect our retail partners. We sell wholesale, so you can find our product at some smoke shops throughout Illinois, specifically Chicago, and parts
Okay.
of Florida
Okay.
and North
Now you're
Carolina and California.
you're not a manufacturer or a producer, right? You're not processing anything. I'm assuming whatever raw product you get from a loan that failed, then you've partnered with somebody to process, or do you own your own facility to process and make the goods as well?
Yeah, so we are actually making the consumable good, but the actual, the Delta 8 oil, we've lent and invested with strategic partners. And
Okay.
so we'll work with someone that we really trust, that, because I've been in the supply chain risk management side for years, Steve. So like
Mhm.
I have some guys I can really trust to make this
Yes.
oil, and it's compliant. In
Yep.
fact, we're one of the only companies that has a consumable product with truly compliant Delta 8 oil.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so they figured out, they cracked the code on how to convert CBD into Delta 8 oil without also making Delta 9, which
Mm.
I've never met anyone who truly can. And there's a lot of issues with fraud. And that's a whole other podcast we could talk about with,
Right.
testing, right?
Mhm.
But KCA, a DEA licensed testing lab, has anointed our strategic partner for being the only ones who've created compliant Delta 8 oil. And so
Great.
they make it, we bring it in house. We actually make our product. So everything's
Okay.
done by hand right now. We're a small,
Yeah.
company right now.
Yeah. Did you,
And
was that the plan? I mean, I know that you wanted to do the lending, right? To provide capital. I mean, that was your original
mhm.
vision. When you were drawing this plan up, did immediately you have the idea like, okay, whatever defaults, we're going to grab the inventory and make product? Was that part of the plan in the beginning, or did that come afterwards?
So with asset-backed lending, right, you have to have what they call the aftermarket of, all right, how am I selling this stuff? So when we first started, it was, we'll just move it out through brokers and through
I see.
supply chain risk management companies at bulk, right, and just get it
Okay.
off our books. But the supply chain it's not broken, it's just never been built. And so it's really hard to rely on brokers, and the
I see.
industry is so fragmented. So we actually evolved into being like, you know what, we can reduce risk and improve profitability and
Mhm.
also support the consumers out there by making sure they're getting a compliant,
Mm.
safe
Mm.
product.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it evolved into it.
Do you make more money? Have you run the math to say, okay, if I buy this 1,000 pounds of raw hemp, am I going to make more money if they pay me back on the loan, or am I going to make more money if I turn it into a product? I guess it depends, right? I guess there's a lot of variables in
I
there.
mean, lending will definitely make less money lending, because we only charge between 4 and 5% on our
Oh, I was
loans.
going to ask you 4 and
Yeah,
5%. Okay. All
yeah.
right. All right.
And to kind of give you a backdrop, most lenders in this space, if you're going to a factorer, they're going to charge 7 to 15, maybe even
Right.
25%.
Yep.
If you find a private, like an individual, like an angel that's willing to just go in on deals with you, they're going to want 50% cut, 30% cut. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult. I could talk
Was
about
this,
lending for an hour.
was this your baby? Was this your vision? And then you grabbed a couple of co-founders. How many? Yeah. Walk me through real quick the company setup. Are there 5 co-founders, or are you the founder and there's just partners? What's the setup?
Yeah. I'm the founder of the idea, right?
Okay.
It actually came out of necessity because I was like, man, like I I really need the ability to have quick capital, and the capital is just so expensive. And I was like, why isn't anyone doing asset lending? One of my mentors has just been advising me, and so he came in as a board member just to advise.
Okay.
And he has 30 years in banking and international banking and trade finance, which trade finance is essentially what we're doing, right? You're securing the asset and facilitating a transaction by holding that underlying capital for the transaction. And
Okay.
and so he brings the wisdom on the banking and lending side, and I bring the expertise on the hemp side, and which has allowed us to create this model.
Did you go to him and say, "Hey, I got this idea. Help me. Let's do this."
Yeah, I told him, I said, hey, here's the problems in the market. This doesn't exist. Like, here's what is really out there right now in terms of
Okay.
lending. You got factors charging insane rates. You got these vulture capitalists that want to own your company or set you up for failure. We got, and then anyone else like who's going to be lending, right? Like their model is made so that the only people who are going to qualify are people that actually don't even really need the money. So it's like,
Gotcha. Well,
so
did you have to raise the cash? Where does the cash come from?
yeah. So you can call it a credit facility. Most of these models, you raise money in from
Through
investors.
through angels or family
Mhm.
offices, or where? Okay.
Through angels at this point in the game. I mean, I consulted with some family offices and some funds, but because of the industry and the risk profile, it's very difficult to get this started because this is a brand new thing that we're doing at Quality Bancorp.
Mhm.
No one is doing asset-backed lending in this space.
Interesting. Interesting.
Um,
Do you have to, oh, so I want to go back to the raising cash. I know we're over on time.
No, I have time. So
Did you, so Kevin, I think is who you're talking about, the mentor from the banking industry. He's on your website, right?
yep.
Um, did you say, hey, Kevin, you help me with this? By the way, do you know some angels? I know some angels. We'll take some guys out to dinner. We'll get some cash. I mean, in layman's terms, is that how it worked?
Yeah, Kevin is arm's length away, right? Like he doesn't directly get involved in the business.
Okay.
He just gives me advice.
Okay. All right.
Teaches
So
me.
you had to
He's
go
a
out,
true mentor.
you had to knock on doors and talk people into providing the early cash.
Yeah, the way that I look at business is a lot of people separate business in their mind from personal relationships and how we think about interacting with people, right? And that's what I love about you, Steve, is like you're very personable and you're like, no. You're bringing someone into your company, especially if they're going to be an officer, like you need to vibe on every level. And so that's made me successful at raising money, is that people know that I put the interests of the company first and the interests of the shareholders first.
Okay.
And so integrity and respect and, honor are really, really, really important to me.
What's the
That's how I raise
business model as an investor? What's the business model? I invest 100,000, you use that money to invest. And then I'm ignorant to how that works. So maybe you can help me. So I give you the money and then I get, monthly dividends from profits, or how does that work? How do I get my money back?
Yeah. So with any type of credit facility, I mean, there's different ways that the credit facilities can structure their payments to investors, but you're essentially an unsecured debt holder, right? Like we have a portfolio of secured assets that your money is collateralizing. And then you give us your money, and then we give you an interest rate that's paid out annually in quarterly payments, right? So we pay it out quarterly. But it's based on an annual percentage rate. And so then you get paid out quarterly so we take the money in, here's our cost of the money, and then we're lending it. And the idea with lending is you want to lend as often as you can. It's kind of like hot potato. Like you want to get it back out there in the market and keep lending it as often as you can, so that the more often you're lending, the more fees you're collecting. And that's how we make our money. So,
well, you mentioned you're charging people 4% or so when you lend them the money. What does the investor get back? Half of that, and the investor gets back 2.5, and then Quality Bancorp keeps 2.5 for profits. What's the split, or can you share that?
Yeah, I could share that. With our current round, and it'll be changing going into the next round as we continue to build out the model. But with our initial investors that wanted to take the risk to prove out the concept with us, we were giving a 15% annualized yield paid out quarterly.
I see.
So,
okay.
A traditional credit facility in other markets that weren't as risky, you get anywhere between 5 and 8. So, and you're putting your money in, it's secured by assets, and you're just getting a check in the mail every quarter. Because it's higher risk, we negotiate at a 15%.
Okay. Very good. Are you raising cash right now? You looking for more investors?
Yeah, we're always building the portfolio. In fact, the lending side is at a point right now where I don't want to scale the lending. Because there's an ebb and flow to an asset-backed lending model. So you lend, and then we've proven concept, we've gotten to this point. Now we need to build the aftermarket, right? The ability to sell these assets quickly and efficiently and profitably. So now we're building out the groundwork, the platform, so that we can then scale the lending. So that's the ebb and the flow. So as we grow this retail channel, right, then we'll get to a point, it's like, okay, we're now making $100,000 a month in retail sales. We have thousands of retail stores and customers across the United States. We can project out how much we're making. So now I know how much more money I can bring into the portfolio and lend out.
Now, let me ask you this too. Okay. So when you first started Zodiac, Zodiac product came from raw material that was captured from people who didn't pay back the loans. but now there's a brand that consumers want. And so they bought it. They're going to want to return. Let me guess, sometimes you don't have more raw material to continue to make that product. So now you got to go out and buy wholesale to continue to feed that retail brand. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely something that could happen. It hasn't happened yet. I mean,
Okay.
you got to look at it this way, right? Like, we had a loan that went south about 3-4 months ago. It was a $37,000 loan.
Okay.
And we collateralized 465 kilos of crude oil.
Okay.
Which is on the street today worth around $80,000.
Okay. So you could just sell it in bulk and make your money back if you wanted to.
But the price is fluctuating like crazy, right? So you kind of have to sit and hold it and wait until the prices come up. And so there's some volatility there. But retail, that oil's worth $2 to $2.5 million if you process it down and make a consumable product. So a $37,000 loan is worth $2 million.
Wow.
So now let's talk about retail, right? Like, how many units is that? So you can extrapolate out how many milligrams in a gram, how many grams in a kilo, right? We have 465 kilos of oil. That's enough supply to run a small company for a year. 2 years.
What happens when you go try to secure the oil? Do you have to take guys with machine guns and things to a warehouse and beat people up and get the oil back, or what does that look like?
It's cowboys and Indians, but
hey man, we're here to get our oil.
I'm a New Yorker, right? No, what we do is we actually emulated a market that I've seen successfully do this in the diamond districts in New York City. So they actually take possession of the collateral before they give the money.
Well, good idea.
Yeah. It's a really, really good idea.
Now you got to have a warehouse. Now you got to have a warehouse in Denver somewhere you're paying monthly rent on.
Yeah, I mean the overhead is very low, and really what I'm really excited about is the equity round that we just opened up to expand the Zodiac Essentials, the aftermarket of the lending.
Okay.
And that's in the parent company. We're not raising it in the Zodiac. We're raising it in the parent company of Quality Bancorp.
Do you have a teaser or something you're sending out to investors? If you do, you can send it to me. I might float it past a few people.
Yeah, I have pitch deck, financials, all that fun stuff. But what's really, I don't know how much time you have. I don't have anything something.
Yeah, go ahead. We can move to wrap up. I've got a couple of last minute questions, but go ahead. Anything else you want to say about Zodiac or Quality Bancorp? Go ahead.
Yeah, the plug. The last thing our model is actually a 3 milestone model. One is prove the lending, right? We've lent out money. We've made some money. We lent out money. They didn't pay us back. We have the assets.
Yeah.
We're selling those assets. So we've been proving out the second milestone, which is building out the retail channel and selling those assets. We've been selling retail products for about 3 months now, where everything's slowly building up. And the third milestone is the one I'm really, really excited about, which is a part of this equity raise, is debit and credit card processing. We call merchant services for the cannabis hemp space.
But aren't there people doing that? Merchant services for cannabis?
On very small levels. It's actually one of the biggest struggles. And I'm not on LinkedIn a lot right now because I'm so busy with what we're doing, but I don't think people are talking about it as much as they should be. The banking industry has been a pain in the butt to most businesses in this space. In addition to banking services like credit and debit card processing, you can't use there's 5 major banks that in this country that support a lot of the banking services, and you can't use them in this space. So your credit debit card processing will get shut down. That's not just cannabis. It's also CBD. CBD is considered a high risk business. So if you want to go out and get debit credit card processing from a cannabis or high risk producer, they're banking out of a small charter bank, which means that they're limited on the amount of transactions they can do. The fees are really, really high, or they're banking out of another country like the Cayman Islands. And so these contracts are kind of shady. They lock you in, and it's different outside this industry. When you go to Stripe or Square or Clover, you sign up that day. They send you your little Square chip, or you plug them into your website, and you're taking cards, right? And you're getting charged anywhere between like 2 and 3.7%.
Yep.
Done. Simple, right? Not in this space. If you try and use them, you're going to get shut down. And so in the 21st century, we use plastic. In the cannabis space and in the CBD space, people are still using checks and cash and money orders and wire transfers.
Yep.
And so what we're doing, and this is where really where Kevin is bringing a lot of like the boots on the ground influence is, Quality Bancorp is indirectly related to a licensed bank out of Europe that Kevin's on the board with. And so, I'm really proud that, he's been able to mentor us. And again, he's not directly involved in any of the business, but he's able to facilitate some relationships, just connecting the dots. That's literally it. And
critical. Yep.
His relationships in Europe has allowed us the opportunity to get a seat at the table at one of the largest cannabis-friendly banks in the world, out of the EU. And what we're looking to position ourselves as and launch here, hopefully in the next 90 days to 120 days, is the first true, legitimate cannabis-friendly merchant services. And we're not going to charge 7 or 8% per transaction like these other companies are doing. We're gonna do our best to work to get it. Now we're gonna be piloting this for the next 90 days to get that down to 3.5, hopefully maybe even lower, with no cap on how many transactions you can do. And this is huge. This is gonna really change the game for the industry.
Wow. I mean, you got, three-legged stool you talked about. I mean, you're busy, my friend, because you got the lending. Now you got a retail brand that's coming from that. Now you're talking about merchant services. Holy cow. You know what the deal is? Now you're going to have to hire a bunch of people, which means you're going to need like a really good recruiting firm.
Right.
I know one. I got
a guy.
It's called Riderflex.
That's
not
right.
sure if you've heard of them. No, it sounds like you're busy, bro. That's what I love about you, Charlie. You are a flat out hustling entrepreneurial machine, and you are, one thing works, it doesn't work, whatever, you just keep moving forward. And I got another idea, and that's what I love about you. You just keep moving forward, and you're not afraid, right? I mean, you will talk to anybody, you'll knock on any door, you'll take any meeting. Like you're not scared, and you're not just sitting around like, okay, I'll just sit around and hope that money falls out of the sky.
Yeah. And once we finish this cap raise, I'm going to be giving you a call. We're going to need to bring on some strategic people, and it's really hard. And if I had to do a plug for Riderflex, if I had to say something about your firm, just my experience in working with you in the past, I've interviewed a lot of different recruiting firms, and you guys by far put more time and energy and effort into providing the best quality recruits for your positions. And I wish that I used you at my last company. I really did.
No, I appreciate the plug. I'm super happy for you, my friend. Congratulations. We gotta have some whiskey again, some bourbon, my friend. I know
I would love that.
Our very first happy hour, we were in Arvada at a little bourbon whiskey bar. What was the name of that place we had drinks?
Oh yeah, the Arvada Tavern.
Yeah, that was the tavern. That's right. We got to do that again soon, my friend.
I would love that.
Soon we'll get together. Great job, Charlie. Congratulations on everything. One more time, just for the listeners, qualitybancorp.com. You can also go to zodiac-essentials.com, or you can look up Charles Cipriani on LinkedIn if you're interested in any of those things. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being on the Riderflex show.
Thank you, Steve.